This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Is it time to reimagine your future? The right business skills may make a difference in your career. At Capella University, we offer a relevant education that's designed to focus on what you need to know in the business world. We'll teach professional skills to help you pursue your goals, like business management, strategic planning, and effective communication. And you can apply these skills right away. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Here on WABC to inform people how they can live longer and stay healthier. Thanks for coming on board. How was your Christmas, Dr. Michalos?
Every day we wake up above ground, don't feel any wood on our elbows. It's Christmas. It's a beautiful thing to be alive, to be in America, and great time to be an American. And staying alive is very important. That's why our listeners keep listening to WABC, and we keep giving them some real actionable data and information that they can review with their doctors and decide what they want to do. And today we want to talk about the Christmas and the holidays, because it's interesting that during the Christmas and holiday period, that's when most heart attacks are reported, first on Christmas Day and then on New Year's Day, not only because of some of the foods we tend to eat a lot more, but also sometimes being around stressful relatives. And that's why I always tell people everything is relative and who your relatives are. And relatives can sometimes bring a lot of stress as well. Some of the things to watch out for in the news and how to get educated on things to watch out for. We just saw some eye drops that were recalled that contain fungus, and those funguses actually have been reported to kill people, and they can actually blind people. And there is a website, FDA.gov, and that's where you look up any food recalls. Like sometimes we hear about certain lettuce or contaminated foods. For example, we just found out there were some pet cat foods that were contaminated that contained bird flu, and it was reported that one cat died from bird flu from contaminated pet food. So you can actually find all these recalls on FDA.gov. It's a nice central place to find out if any of your medicines were recalled. Like some of the medicines that were made out of the United States were found to have certain carcinogenic compounds in them, and they were recalled. So go to FDA.gov and look up the list and make sure that one of your medicines and some of the foods that we eat are not on there. And the other important thing to do, I do it once a year, is I go to NHTSA, the National Highway Transportation Safety .gov, and put your VIN number in and find out if there's any recalls on your brake lines, airbags, fuel lines. And you'd be surprised how many times you don't get notified that there's a recall, and then you just bring it back to your dealer and you'll get your car repaired free, even if it's past warranty. Recalls will always be repaired, so safety is very important. Especially you want to drive a safe car, and you can look up on the NHTSA website which cars get the best safety for front and side collisions, especially if you're on blood thinners. You want to drive a safe car because most people don't die from the trauma of the car accident. They die from bleeding out. So those are some of the safety things that you can do. So those are just some of the health tips.
Dr. Michalos, big in the news with the elevation of RFK Jr. By Donald Trump to lead the National Institute of Health. He's got to go through what is going to be, I think, a very contentious confirmation hearing in the Senate. But raw milk, he is a believer in raw milk. Others say no. We see they found bird flu in raw milk. What are the arguments about raw milk versus pasteurized milk?
Well, I think what he's trying to say is that, certain raw milk, there might be certain nutrients and antibodies that might be better for you. But we have to always update information. And now that we know that we have a mutating virus, a mutating bird flu that's jumped to cows and cats, and now even 68 humans, we have to adapt and change and say that's not really a great idea right now. I think if he goes through the confirmation, he's got some great ideas on food. I think he should focus on the food safety, because in the end, it's really our food that's making us sick.
Food in equals crap out. And if if you eat natural foods and foods that God created, that's one thing. If you eat foods that are created by some of these companies with all these chemicals in it and these colorings and these preservatives and et cetera, well, somewhere in your body it affects you, doesn't it, Doctor?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why in the Mediterranean diet zones, they don't really have the processed food. They eat a piece of fresh fish. They have fresh vegetables. They have extra virgin olive oil in their diets. And, they're having fresh avocados and fresh fruits right off the tree. Guess what? Without all these preservatives and pesticides, because when you have a preservative and a pesticide, it kills certain organisms, bacteria. The problem is when you ingest it, it also kills some of the good bacteria in our gut. We now know that 80% of our immune system is in our gut, and our gut is where our immunity is controlled. So when you're eating a preservative that's designed to increase the shelf life of a food, that same chemical that preserves the shelf life to kill bacteria is also killing some of the good bacteria, and that's a problem. The other thing is very important during the holidays, too. We eat a lot of sugars and things. The things, brush your teeth, oral hygiene, because they've found that some of the bad bacteria in our mouth and in gum disease was found in heart plaques, in heart attacks, and in heart valves on autopsy. So those same bacteria make their way into it. Another thing to do before you get dental cleanings in the new year, brush your teeth and use a good mouthwash to clean your mouth. Why? Because during those cleanings with ultrasound, some of those bacteria can get into your bloodstream. So brushing your teeth well, rinsing with a good mouthwash. They have probiotic mouthwashes now, like Olas mouthwash or something in that family, not something that kills all the bacteria and the good bacteria, and you're less likely to get blood and bacteria inside your bloodstream. So it's very important. Oral hygiene. People who have better oral hygiene at least twice a year, get your teeth clean. You'll get less heart disease. So these are some of the things we know. Before you have surgery, for example, the day before, talk to your doctor about taking, for example, a stool softener, because during surgery they give you pain medicines. People get constipated and plugged up. Another thing before surgery is if you're going to have a knee surgery, they give you a soap, a Hiblicans, or you're having abdominal surgery, shower well with an antibacterial soap or something like Hiblicans to clean that area well to reduce your chances of having an infection. Try to avoid, this is something that, when I was an intern at Cornell in New York Hospital, we always told people to really wash the area well, less likely to have an infection, and also try to avoid elective surgery in July. July 1st is when all the new interns and residents come into the hospital, and that's the time where you really don't want to have surgery. All the new trainees are coming in, so that's another little tip. And if you're out of town, you want to ask who is the director of residency training if you don't have a surgeon or a doctor, because that's the guy who teaches everyone else how to do the surgery, and that's who you ask for. If you're in another state and you suddenly have an appendix and you're in Oklahoma, you want to ask those questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing, me and Curtis had a big argument this morning. The fluoride in the water. Now, I've heard different stories. Are you on any side of the two stories?
I think the amount of fluoride in the water is negligible, and most of the fluoride passes through your gut anyway. So I think what they're trying to do is just to protect the teeth. And if you were able to get, the idea is if you were able to get everyone to comply and use different types of because we eat so much sugar, and you use the good fluoridated toothpaste, your teeth enamel is stronger. So what they tried to do is to try to minimize the gum disease and dental disease, and that's why they put it inside the water. So I don't really see any great studies that show that it's that harmful.
Now, Dr. Michalos, Italian and Americans just had their night of the seven fishes. There's a big article in this morning's New York Post that people who eat fish live longer. Fish oil rich in omega-3s, heart benefits. But then again, with RFK Jr., he went on an all-fish diet. He got mercury poisoning and then had to have chelation. What is correct here? Because if you're eating fish all the time...
It's a little tricky. I had the same thing. I was eating tuna, and I had high mercury levels, and I had to get 3 IV chelations about 5 years ago, and it worked, and it brought it down. The problem is what fish? If you're having wild-caught salmon that's eating from the sea, it's different. The farm fish that we are eating a lot of the times, they feed them corn, which fish don't naturally eat, so they're loaded with something called omega-6.
They feed the fish corn?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
In these farms, when you have a fish farm, they don't have the natural stuff around. You're inside a fish farm. So the problem is they're not eating what they naturally eat, just like when you're feeding a cow a bunch of corn instead of natural. That's why you see sometimes the eggs and milk labels, pasture-fed, grass-fed, because that's what they naturally eat. The problem is when you pump them up with, corn, it's like having high fructose corn syrup. It changes the omega-3. The omega-3 is the good one. And the other thing is you want fish that don't live the fish lives longer and is larger, like a tuna or a shark, that collects more mercury. So if you're eating a lot of tuna, but if you're eating certain fish like a small size sea bass or a flounder, the mercury levels are much, much lower. So you really have to watch what you eat, and you have to really, I'm not trying to give plugs, but there are companies online. You can buy Alaskan salmon that's wild caught. They freeze pack it. They mail you 20 to your house, and you use those. But when you go out to eat a lot of times, there's dye in that salmon that was farm raised, that was fed corn. So yes, that does not contain the omega-3, and they're all swimming together in this crowded pool, with each other's poop, and then, there are higher mercury levels in a lot of those fish as well. So that's the difference. Unfortunately, you have to really ask questions. So our audience just learned a lot. The shorter the lifespan of a fish, the less mercury. It doesn't have time to collect the heavy metals, not just mercury.
And in the last few months, me and you, both of us, we had high arsenic count.
I did. I had higher arsenic count. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Sometimes rice can eating a lot of rice sometimes, or eating certain vegetables that are exposed to certain pesticides, you can have higher arsenic levels. And I actually had to go and get I got an IV chelation treatment. It's called EDTA, and that binds the heavy metals, and then you urinate it out. And that's helped to start bringing it down. So, but it's a real phenomenon. But I think the better we get with our food and in our school systems and start teaching kids how to eat, how we eat in how healthier places. It's ridiculous that the lifespan of men in the United States is 74.2 years old. Obviously, COVID had something to do with that. But in the lifespan of men in Japan is 84 and 82 in Portugal.
10 years difference.
Yeah, that's a lot, and
yep.
we need to change that.
Doctor,
we want to live long and prosper.
Thank you. Live long and prosper. That's the nickname we have given him from Dr. Spock. Peter, have a great holiday, whatever you're doing, and we'll talk to you again on Sunday.
Thank you both for always getting the truth out and saving AM radio.
Thank you.